Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So for today's episode, I'm really excited to welcome back onto the show someone we've had on the show before, but is also a great connection and friend that I've made over the years, and her name is Cass Thompson. She is a former career coach and expert in all things networking, but she believes wholeheartedly that we have more opportunities to connect with others than we ever did before. From social media to texting, FaceTime, Zoom, our opportunities are endless in ways to connect. But the ability to connect doesn't exactly translate into relationships that just appear out of nowhere. That's why she founded her community called the One Hello Society. This helps foster accountability for the follow ups that get deals done and businesses built. We all know that everything is in the follow up. We're going to talk about that today. She's also the host of the Creating Opportunities podcast, and we're so excited to welcome her back. On today's episode, Cass and I really dive deep into what builds authentic relationships, how to network a little bit better in 2025 and beyond, the things that used to work that don't work anymore, and how to almost simplify and really distill down where it's worth spending your time when you try to build a network and why it really matters whether you're giving or taking or what your intentions are. So, we're going to dive into all those topics today on today's episode. Let's dive in. Hey, Cass, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for a fun conversation.
I am too, because it has been a minute since we caught up. And I always love talking to people I've had good conversations with in the past. Guys, if you haven't seen Cass's episode, she went deep on tactical LinkedIn tips last time she was here. Episodes from a couple of years ago, I think. God, time flies. And you have to go check that out. We'll link it in the show notes. But Cass, if you wouldn't mind, just introduce yourself real quick to those listening about what it is you do and what you focus on.
Yeah, so I am a speaker and strategist around authentic relationship building. I have a consulting company called One Hello Society. Essentially, I teach how to network without the ick factor, both online, mainly LinkedIn, since that is the largest online networking platform, and also just in real life. How do you do this without feeling skeezy, gross, or awkward?
I love that. And I think that a lot of people try to teach networking with these different little tip strategies and tactics or like little things you can do. I say checklists of stuff, right? And I think you kind of take a different approach. So I'll let you explain broadly what it is you do that's a little bit different.
Yeah, I have come to realize that first off, when I say networking, like if I ask somebody, hey, have you been networking for a job or they need new business? And I say, have you been networking? They go, oh, well, I haven't gone to a lot of events. I haven't gotten a lot of business cards. And I'm like, okay, that's a piece. That's not networking. Networking is an ongoing building of a relationship. So that's step one is just getting that idea of like, it's not trading business cards. If you find 5 people that you think are great and you want to hone relationships with, works for me. But then the second part I realized is there's a lot of people out there now saying like networking is relationship building, but they just talk about it as give and take. And they love to emphasize give first, right? Give first, give. And I'm not against that because when I bring this up, it always sounds like I'm saying, like, no, you should take. No, no, no. I am all about the giving. But if we only focus on giving and taking, it's still transactional. It's not a relationship. What I like to say is networking is 20% giving, 10% taking, and 70% is just freaking staying in touch, just like you do with any other relationship in your life. And so it's really helping people hone in on those skills of what is keeping in touch in a professional world that still can lead to opportunities and clients and jobs and speaking gigs and all those other things down the road.
Yeah, and I think that a function of this is just how busy we've all become and how we have so many things to do and we've become task oriented that we almost have to turn this into a task for ourselves to make sure it gets done. And then we have to turn it into some compartmentalized list of things to go do without really infusing that humanity in of like, what would I want to receive? Or knowing the context of the situation while you're reaching out to people. Like if you have a checklist that says reach out to 5 people and send this message and it's like totally impersonal, totally templated. I can't tell you how many freaking LinkedIn messages I get on a daily basis asking for like, "Let's have a time to chat." Like, no fucking time right now. It's fucking tax season. That you are so unaware of you're asking for my time, even though you think you're giving. You are asking for something from me in the form of my time.
Well, that okay, I have so many thoughts on this. So one, I love that you said even though you think you're giving. This is why I talk about we just need to care about people. Stop trying to give value. So when I say give, my big pet peeve is when people hear you need to give people value. Well, we inadvertently end up, like, insulting people when we do that. Like, Shannon, I'm sure you've gotten the messages of people going, "Hey, I checked out your podcast and, I've got a couple tips of things that you could do to improve it." And you're like, that is unsolicited advice I didn't ask for." And, like, you just kind of insulted me instead of going, "Hey, I really liked this. What else are you working on?" Like, that's caring for a person. So I like to talk about care. And, going with the idea of we've become so task focused, one of my things that I like to say is we have to start prioritizing people over productivity. We value productivity and efficiency over everything in our society right now. And that's myself into I am a productivity junkie, but people matter. So like for example, the other morning, um a friend of mine, and I say friend, but we met through a networking mixer and got lunch and now we're friends. She called me about something and we ended up talking for an hour. And my little brain had a part itching going, I blocked my schedule for the day and I'm supposed to doing these other things. And I had to turn it off and go, no, this is good. Like, this conversation is good. She was helping me with something, I got to ask her questions and she gave me some advice on something I'm working on. I got to talk to her about what she's doing next. And I'm like, we have to stop looking at conversations or quote unquote interruptions from people as a waste of time or not as valuable as crossing things off our list. That conversation was valuable. Now, I'm not saying you have to do an hour out of the blue conversation with people all the time,
You gotta keep it to productivity too, but it's a balance.
but reframing that mindset of like, if you see a friend at the grocery store for 5 minutes and catch up, that's not, oh, I'm now behind schedule. And I think some people are starting to look at people that way, and we have to stop.
And you know what's funny is I've adopted these little habits. I don't even know if I'm an introvert, extrovert. Sometimes I can't even tell. I need a big battery recharge when I go home. Like I love my alone time, don't get me wrong, but I make it a point, for example, I live in Costa Rica. There's not a lot of people here, and definitely not a lot of ambitious people here. So it's not like being in LA, New York, or other places I'm used to being where it's a little bit easier to, we'll say, run into people. There's more people. But I'll tell you, it's damn easier to meet people here because I sit outside the coffee shop with my dog. By the way, best tool ever, because I sit with a cute puppy. I've never had more conversation started than when I had a cute puppy next to me. So now I know have a cute puppy. But I've made relationships with so many people who are traveling, coming through, looking for advice, have advice, potential clients, people who know potential clients back in the States, because I'm just starting relationships. Jason probably goes nuts because he's just like, who did you bring home from the coffee shop today? Because I bring home these relationships we start through WhatsApp and through meeting these guys. We end up going to dinner. We find out that they're building a business too, or they're looking to move. And like, we've made so many friendships that way through random interactions that if you have to allow space for those interactions to happen. And I just go to the coffee shop a little earlier and sit there, enjoy my coffee and make eye contact and allow people to talk. And it's amazing how I'm not headphones on listening to a podcast, although I would enjoy that. I'm not sitting on my laptop because I look closed off like I'm working. I am sitting there open, looking around and making eye contact and saying hi to everyone. What a concept.
I love that. But it is a concept to people now. There are people who, like, don't know that.
You have to be down for the relationship. You have to be like, "I'm down to talk to you. I'm a human." It's almost like airplanes too, all those things, like, these are all opportunities to start conversations that could be life-changing if you allow for it. Yeah. It's so important too, but I think that we've lost touch, like, even people who live digitally, right? I live digitally for the most part. Like, most of the people I have relationships with, like you, we've never met in person, but we have to remind ourselves of that sometimes and be like, "That's right, I haven't met you in person. I don't think I have."
Even as you said it, I'm like, "Wait a minute. No, we haven't met in person. No."
No. We spend a lot of time together, but we haven't met in person, and the same goes I have employees I haven't met in person. I have clients I haven't met in person, but I've worked with for several years. That's changing this year, by the way. But you almost have to build a relationship such that no one can really tell that you haven't met in person. Like, you don't remember that as a key aspect, right? It's like, "This is my friend Kat. She's awesome. Like, here's Cassandra." And it's like, "Have you guys ever met in person?" And we have to go, "No." It's not a key aspect of our relationship that it's just digital. And I think we have to really transcend that Zoom wall and have real conversations. Like you said, transactional being the expectation of giving and taking, but transactional also being like the subject matter.
Yeah, right. That's the thing is we need to bring the personal back in. I think that's where Zoom is hard or any online platform. I say Zoom the way people say Kleenex instead of tissues. Like, I just mean any virtual thing.
Online meetings.
I will say there's something about meeting in person. Like, if you met someone for coffee, you have that time in line to, like, "Hey, what are you getting? And how was your day?" And you just kind of shoot the breeze and you small talk. And we live in a world now where everyone thinks small talk is not valuable, and it actually is very important to start warming up and priming a relationship. But in person, you kind of get that time or to talk about, like, someone you see across the way or get interrupted by the barista. I have found that when we get on online calls, we get right down to business. And you get right into, like, "So tell me more about you and your business and tell me what's going on and what are you working on and what are you excited about?" Or whatever version of that is. We don't get that kind of, like, I would say almost like environmental time of just kind of what's going on around us. And so it's harder to find that connection time. So, like, you have to, when you're on a call, go, "Oh, like, what is that flower behind you? Is that real?" And then you have a conversation about that. That's why I do recommend to people, don't blur your background, because then I don't have something to talk about. Or come with your giant Stanley mug in a wild color, or wear a bright lipstick. Like, do something that there's something for people to start responding and reacting to, or you're going to have to be real focused on it to just go, "Before we get into the businessy stuff, tell me, like, what's something outside of work that you're excited about this week?" Like, you've got to find those connection moments with people, because I think we're starting to forget we are people connecting with other people. We are humans. We want actual connection, and not just like, "Here's what I'm working on and here's who you could refer me to." That's not it.
No, and it's also in the environment you're in. I understand that's on the agenda. You want to keep things productive. And it's almost like I get why you would do that, but I think we also have to make room for whether it is in that environment or otherwise, we have to make room for the other opportunities like that, to your point. I heard this guy, David Norrie, I don't know if you've heard of him. I heard him speak at a conference I was at, and he talked about something very similar to you, but he called it tattoos and t-shirts. So he says, "Showcase your tattoos and t-shirts." He says, "You know the best conversation starter? Look at someone's tattoo. There's always a story. No one randomly tattoos a random design if they doesn't mean something to them." So if you compliment the tattoo, of course, authentically, like if you like it, and then but ask about like, "Hey, what does that mean?" Or "When did you get that?" And it's usually like a major life event or something really good that happened to them. Tattoos are usually a symbol, it's a stamp of a memory. Or even tell me the story about how you got that. Did it hurt? Anything like that can start a conversation. And then t-shirts are generally, if they have words on them, there's a reason. Nobody just picks up a random t-shirt. There's words on it that spoke to them. Maybe they have a sense of humor. Maybe it's an image. Maybe it's from a place they visited. Like, it's an invitation to ask about it.
Yeah. Even I would say with that, like, okay, so it's funny. I have a sweatshirt with words on it right now. If you
Right.
ask me, like, what did it say? I would have to go, "Oh, it says Cafe Creme Paris." I am going to France this year, but, like, if you asked, it would end up being, I thought it was cute, and I thought I liked the skirt that went with it at the loft, and I didn't, but I still just kept the sweatshirt. But then we could talk about a great deal, and you connect on that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing.
Or why I thought it meant something, right? Because like Cafe Creme Paris, I love Paris. Have you ever been? "Oh, I'm actually going this year," or, "Oh, what does that mean?" And inviting it.
I think the point of it is, like, you just have to be curious because even if my answer, right, is so boring of just, "It was on sale, and I kinda liked the color."
And I'm like, "Oh, girl, same. This was from Costco."
Exactly. But you can't go with the expectation. So, because what I think sometimes people do is they go, "Oh, I'm supposed to ask," right? The people who get really nervous around networking right
Mm.
now heard, "Oh, I'm supposed to ask about t-shirts because there's a story behind it." And then they ask someone about their shirt and the person goes, "Oh, I don't know. I just picked it up at Target." And they go, "Oh, crap. There wasn't a story. Well, what do I do now?" And it's like, no, no, no. It is just an entry point. Keep being curious, keep connecting and go, "Oh, well, why'd you pick that one out of all the t-shirts at Target?" You know what I mean? Like, it's having that curiosity, it's a jumping off point, but it's very weird. The whole idea of really relationship building networking is curiosity and interest without expectation on every step of the way. If we
Yeah.
add expectation, we will always be disappointed.
For sure. Even if it's, making introductions with people, even if you're in a, like, business networking environment, what I find is it's like dating. It's just like dating. When you start a relationship, when you date somebody, right? And we were actually just talking about this in the context of podcast, which I think really does relate. So when you're dating with somebody or you agree to go on a date, if the intentions are clear and it feels transactional because you realize that both of you are there to potentially meet a mate, a significant other, um, it's very like plain and it feels forced sometimes. I think, and that's just my opinion, is both go in going, okay, we're both here for the same game show, right? Like we're both kind of playing this game. Um, and I met my now husband accidentally through a phone interview that turned into a text message about me doing Zumba somewhere that turned into another because he found something about me to ask about and then kept asking about it. And the same thing vice versa. And what you're describing is literally how I met my husband accidentally based on simply building a relationship, but not with the intention of doing so, but because it naturally happened because we actually had shit to talk about. And I think that's what's getting missed is everyone's trying to force those conversations or they're targeting people that they want to start relationships with and being a little bit overkill in my opinion. I think the intentions are made really clear when you're showing up to serve these people or asking what they need. And I think the other person on the other side, to your point before, is like, what are you going to ask from me in a minute? Because, like, I feel this like little reciprocity game you're playing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will be very honest, that part can sometimes be hard to break past. So, um, in the context of like LinkedIn, I think in person, if you're going to a networking mixer, a conference, etc., it's a little bit easier because you get an instant conversation. And so you can start chatting.
Everyone's down to talk. Everyone's down for the conversation. We know why we're here.
You can end up talking about different things to kind of prove like, I'm not going to ask you about this, right? I'm not trying to get business from you right this second. But let's say on LinkedIn, you need to be connecting with people you don't know on LinkedIn. Uh, but it can be hard to do that in a way that people will respond to without going, the second I connect, I know they're going to ask me to jump on a consulting call or a free call or let's just chat for 15 minutes. Like, no, it's so awful. And what I have found is there's only so much I can do in those 300 characters of an invite message to let them know I'm not gonna solicit you right away. Like, I'm not gonna sales pitch you immediately. You have to create a message that's genuine and authentic. I have said to people, "Hey, I found your name in search." Like, I'll straight up tell them, like, "I was doing a search on this and I found your name. It's a topic I'm really interested in, so I'm looking to connect to more people in it." That is authentic, and I'm writing in a way that's authentic, but I admit there has to be a little bit of trust on their end that I'm gonna hit accept and just trust that this person is not going to pitch me on the other end And so that's where it's on me that once they accept, to really build that trust by not pitching them right away, by
Yeah.
asking them a question about them or saying, I told you I was interested in learning about this thing. You work in it. Could you answer like one question for me? What do you think of this going on right now? What do you think about
Yeah.
this trend going on in the industry? And then it builds trust to go, okay, now I can start getting to know this person.
I don't do the cold connection and intro message first.
Okay.
I comment the shit out of their profile posts.
Mhm.
Not all at once like a blast, like those people who like 18 of my Instagram posts and then DM me. No.
How is that still going on, by the way? Like, how is that still going on?
Like, guys, we smell it a mile away, don't do it. So, it's like such a deterrent, but anyway, I could complain about that in a whole episode. But the thing that I do is so here's an example. We've gotten really intentional lately on the podcast about soliciting guests and inviting them. So we actually do a hard search on LinkedIn for interesting people who are doing big shit and are really fun to talk to by looking at their posts and researching them and actually mining for quality guests. So I found a couple of guests, namely one we had on recently, and I was like, this chick is really fucking cool. I like her. And I said, oh, she's got a book coming out. We got to talk about this. And I actually looked at excerpts from the book and I was like, hey, I love what you're building. I love this concept. We have a very similar message here. Let's talk about it. And of course, got the accepted, thing. But I first went to all their content and was like, I love the content. I dug deep. And now we're talking about collaborating on more stuff. Now we're talking about, she's commenting on my stuff, I'm commenting on hers. And it's like all because I just simply was intentional and not transactional, but intentional about these are the types of people I want to get exposure to. And I made that very clear that like I'm looking for people who have a similar messaging. It sounds like we do. You seem cool. It's literally like Match.com. Looks like we both like hockey, wanna chat. So, it's just finding simple things that connect you other than an immediate, we'll say, problem and solution type relationship. It
Yes.
could just be as simple as a common denominator of we both like fucking pizza. I don't care. It doesn't have to be that serious.
Yep. I love that strategy. Commenting is a huge underutilized thing on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
The only thing I would say is I think both strategies work, right? What I was talking about and what you're doing, because there are people who, right, only 3%, it's now some are saying 1% of LinkedIn users post. So some of us are trying to meet people that they're active on LinkedIn, but they don't post. So there's nothing to comment on. So then you do have to reach out without the comment.
Yeah, but you can find their activity though. Like when you go to their profile, I think you can see like where they comment on stuff too. So you can actually share. I feel like we're joining the like proverbial like little huddle of people over the cocktail table, and it's just like, hey, and like you chime in there too.
Oh, commenting on a comment is actually a huge underutilized strategy. So yes,
Mm,
I am still with you, but I
okay.
just know I've heard from clients and stuff. They're like, well, these people aren't active, but you still want to get in touch with them. There is a huge population of LinkedIn people that are true LinkedIn lurkers. They are so scared to even comment because they don't want their boss seeing, their fellow coworkers seeing, their whatever. Just and not even for fear of saying something wrong. No one wants to look stupid. And so they
Mhm.
don't do anything, but they are there. So that's why both are great. If you find people that are commenting, that are active, oh my gosh, please go comment and then go connect with them.
Yeah, but you also have to know who you're talking to, right? I think that's the point, Cass, is like you have to put a little bit of the time and effort in. And I want to talk about this is like I feel like people aren't willing to invest the time in the relationships. They're simply either expecting immediate results from a relationship or they're checklisting their way through a number of messages that are templated or they're trying to go relationships at scale. They're trying to like network at scale first. And I feel like it's so backwards.
It is backwards. But we were kind of talking about it before we jumped on here to record. Everyone's been told automate, automate, automate. And you feel like taking the moment to do a personal step. Oh, I'm not being a good business person now. It's like, well, no, it's the opposite. Um, And I'm seeing more and more. I mean, you can look at coaching programs even. There is a trend coming back of the personal is what people want. And so take the moment to write the real message, to write the real email, to voice DM people because they want to know it's you and not a bot and not a message from an automated system. Um, it's going to go really far. I've been doing this too, but I have a friend who has a store in town and she last week started emailing individual customers one on one, just going like she could look up, they bought a candle and she'd say, "Hey, I wanted to let you know we just got a new stock of spring scents in, come by the store." She did that last week. She told me this morning 17% of her revenue for the month came from customers who got those emails last week. That's a huge chunk off a very small amount of overall customers, but because they were personalized and people came in and said, "Thank you so was that you who emailed me?" And she'll say, "Yeah." And they go, "Well, thank you so much for that email. Like this was super, oh great. Now I knew this thing." We all want to feel special. In a world of automation, we want to feel seen and special. And so take the time.
100%. This actually happened to me recently. I think you'll appreciate this. Is we had a core employee in the middle of February quit at the company for personal reasons unrelated to the actual job, but just realized they couldn't make the commitment to a full-time job right now. Totally fine, totally understand. Totally effed up the workflow, not gonna lie. But then we had to go problem solve, right? We have to go triage and go, okay, this happened, nothing we can do about it. We have to go fix it. It was kind of this little like wartime huddle of like, what do we do first? I need to go post another job description. I got to do all that. I got to hire someone new, not rush the process, right? But oh, this is going to put us behind on client work. And I know the clients are going to be impacted by this. So I had a couple choices and I said, we should send an email out to all the clients, just like, hey, everyone, here's what's going on. Your stuff's not going to be that impacted. We're going to focus on the higher priority things. And then I started writing this email that was going to go out to everybody. And we only have 12 clients, by the way. So I was writing this email to everybody and I stopped halfway through the email and I was like, fuck it. And I picked up the phone for the next hour and a half and I individually called the cell phones of every single client contact, explained the situation. They were like, no big deal. Why are you calling me? They were kind of like, totally fine, understand, been there. And we actually formed a stronger relationship with many of those clients because they were like, dude, same thing happened to me last year. I'm with you. Like, been there, business owner to business owner. I get it. We agreed collectively on each client's individual high impact, high priority items that we were going to focus on. And we agreed that the rest would be delayed and that would be okay. First of all, that was a huge confidence builder because it reaffirmed our relationships. Number two, it was also a relationship builder in the sense that I heard more stories from my clients. And then third, they felt more secure about Shannon's got it under control. She told me that she's got these things she's doing, just create reliability. So, and that trust factor. So, in essence, me just going, fuck the automation, fuck the reply all, fuck this. I just said, I'm going to pick up the phone, throw my rest of my workload away for the afternoon, and all I'm going to do is this. And I don't know what came over me to do that because this seems so logical, right, Cass? But it's like, that's not the first thing we go to anymore.
No. And we should. I think we're just so overwhelmed and so inundated. I mean, it goes back to something you said earlier about like productivity and we feel like we have so much to get done. This is what I kind of learned over the last year is people know they should network. People know they should build even if they understand it in the right term. They go, "Yes, I should build relationships." Great. But that follow-up piece is the hard part. I have found the follow-up piece is the hard part because they go, "Oh, I don't have time. Oh, it gets put on the back burner because all those projects sound more important." And it's like, no, you got to remember when I ask most people, where did your clients come from? Where did your deals come from? It's relationships. It might have started off an Instagram story or a LinkedIn post or a podcast episode, but they wouldn't qualify it as that. They would say, oh, it was a relationship because it started there and then they did follow up. But people get lost in the sauce on how to do that, and it's like you really have to prioritize that time to start connecting with people. And I will say, I'm not against automation altogether. but you should personalize within. So one thing I use is my CRM is called Folk, Folk. Um it's newer, it's a startup. So I haven't used a ton of CRM. So others probably let you do this too. But I love that like if I have an email I need to send to a group of people, it takes it and like it shows me each person individually and I can go in. So if you were on that list, Shannon, I can go into the email that's going to you and at the top, write a message that's just for you. Or in the middle, write a message that's just for you. And so, yeah, the main core part that I needed 20 people to know, I didn't have to retype or copy paste, but I can go through and go, oh my gosh, Shannon, you got to see below, but also, how's the dog doing? Or who did you meet this week at the coffee shop? And so, don't think it has to be all starting from scratch every time. You can have, um, a structure to it.
Be so templated, basically.
It can be templated, but personalize the template.
All or nothing, though. It's not fully template or fully personal because people think like, "Oh my god, it's gonna take so much freaking time for me to do." And in some cases, I go, "Tough shit, yeah, it is," but it's some of the best minutes you can spend in some cases because the ROI on that time should be high if you know what you're doing and you're doing it effectively. And I think people are correcting the wrong problem. Maybe they're not getting results or they're feeling like it's wasted time to reach out personally. And I go, "Maybe it's what you're saying, though." Or maybe it's just not the right like, maybe you're pitching directly or you're coming in a little too strong. Maybe it's actually like you're going in the wrong direction now because 'cause you're automating thinking, "Well, I'm wasting all this time personalizing. I'm gonna send automations," and it's actually sending you further in the wrong direction. I think people are getting out of the substance of what they're doing and the why behind it, and they're just going into, "How can I do more and more and more of anything to say I did something?" Hey, real quick, are you learning anything in this episode that you think is share worthy? Well, if you could take a quick screenshot and share any of your biggest takeaways or quotes from this episode, post it to Instagram and make sure to tag me at Shannon K. Weinstein and at Keep What You Earn. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Let's dive back in.
Yes. Oh, I completely agree. And yeah, this is what I teach for a living. And I was looking at some things I've done. There was stuff I was doing in the end of last year that was working in terms of messaging people. All of a sudden, it's not working. And I'm not taking that and going, oh, I'm not supposed to message people individually anymore. I'm looking at it and going, what's going on with my message? Like, why all of a sudden is this not hitting? What do I need to do? Like, oh, maybe I'm asking too much. I'm never asking anyone for a call right away, but like, oh, maybe I'm asking too many questions right away. It feels like I'm coming on too strong. Or maybe maybe that word does still sound like I'm going to give a sales pitch, even though I literally in my reply messages to people, like my first follow up message, go, I solemnly swear this is not leading to a sales pitch call. But I'm like, maybe that's too low in the message. So I completely agree with you that if something's not working, it doesn't mean, oh, it's because I was taking the time to be personal. It's, well, what was in that personalization? How about we try something else? This is where it is all an experiment. But I would say the last thing to do is take the personalization away. And with this too, I was having this conversation with somebody the other night. We were talking about follow-up and she said, of course, when we follow up, and this was more in a sales sense, like really doing follow-up messages, which is still part of networking in all honesty. It's business relationship building. But she was saying, a lot of us get that feeling of, oh, I'm bothering somebody. And she said, but I forget how many messages I get a day and I don't see things or I forget to write that person back. And I'm so grateful when they bump me to the top of their email. And so I think that goes to this point of we need to think about what would we like to receive? You need to look at the messages you're sending and go, would I respond to this message? Because if you wouldn't, no one else is going to.
No, exactly. And the other thing too is one thing we started doing with networking too on LinkedIn in particular is me and my marketing manager kind of teamed up on what's the most effective use of my time on that platform to do because I could end up down rabbit holes beyond rabbit holes, you know that. So what she did was on my Asana board, shout out Asana, running my business, literally the lifeblood. But um she was just like, how about this? how about instead of what used to be like send 5 pitches for yourself on podcasts and send 5 pitches for guests per week, instead of measuring based on that, which felt checklisty, she puts a thing on my board, but like twice a week, spend 15 minutes mining for good guests and commenting and engaging. So it's time bound, but I'm motivated to be efficient with that time, because if I spend 15 minutes and I don't do shit, I feel bad about it. So I go 15 minutes and I'm like, that's all it takes me to really go through and find 1 or 2 people I think are interesting. And then typically I want to spend more time and I want to keep going and I want it with that mission. But I think that for me personally, dedicating a certain amount of time to simply go do those things, but not dictating what I'm doing, but just to interact, react, find people that are interesting and start conversations is freeing, because I feel less like I have to check this off to feel accomplished. Like I have to walk away with a pitch or walk away with a result when I'm just celebrating the effort I'm taking and the time I'm spending nurturing that.
Yeah, I love a time-bound task. Uh, I think that's great. That's the thing is, like, I think some of us are still checklist people. Um, I am at a point where my first block of the morning is 2 hours typically, right? This is if a day goes well, that just says peopling. It's my peopling time. And so that's when I reply to the people from the day before that emailed or messaged or whatever. And then that's where I try to make so many new connections. It doesn't always happen because not every day is the same. And when I say make new connections, I mean, I focus on effort. So it's 20 invites sent a day, not I have to get 10 connections today. I can't force someone to be on LinkedIn today and hit that button, you know? So just the idea that, like, if you are somebody who goes, no, I like what Shannon said, but I know I'll just end up down some commenting rabbit hole and never do it. Maybe it's just I have to comment on one post today and I have to do that in the 15 minutes. Great. You can do that. That's doable. Like, it's okay if you do have a little bit of a checklist, but the checklist needs to be on effort and not results. And there is something too of catching yourself on, am I trying to move this too fast? Sometimes we do it. I have seen myself do this where I've jumped straight to, oh, we should talk about you doing more on LinkedIn because it'd be so great for your business. And let me send you. And it's just because I'm excited because I see the solution for the person and I forget, oh, that might have come off a little strong, a little salesy. And I've fully backed off before and gone, oh, by the way, I would love to just get on a Zoom with you too and hear more about who you are as a person. Like sometimes we go too hard too fast because we're excited, not because we're like, I got to get this deal and make this money? So you just got to kind of take a step back and go, how am I presenting myself?
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like I told you about how I met my husband, we actually bonded over horrible dating stories. So in a way, we were almost disarming the whole conversation, saying like, I'm having a really hard time dating right now. And it's like, me too. And it's like, cool, we can relate on that. Like, we didn't talk about dating each other. We were just like bonding over these horrible stories. And in a way, I've actually bonded with people on LinkedIn over like, oh my God, how fucking annoying are those DMs, right? And then it's like, oh, cool. Like, you too. Yeah. Oh my God, you're one of the people too that's normal. And it's great because, leaning into the LinkedIn example, right? I get those DMs all the time. You also have to realize, like, you're not the only person messaging that person. Like, you're not the only person doing this. Like, you have to stand out, but in a good way by doing something other people aren't doing. And you have to understand the trends of what people are doing. And honestly, too, ask people, you know, you can ask these questions, or you could, like, I don't know, talk to somebody who is your client, your prospect, whatever, and be like, "What are you getting for sales pitches?" So, like, I don't do that. And there's so many creative ways to identify that and to come up with a better strategy. And I think the whole point is to be strategic and intentional, but not like, obviously, we don't wanna be sleazy, but you may not realize you're coming across that way when you're doing things that you're trying to do on a scalable level. They're just not personalized.
Right. No, I think that's the thing. It's like you have to kind of check yourself every day and go, okay, wait, am I just trying to know them as a person or am I seeing them as the gateway to everything I want on the other side? It's like you can fully start an professional relationship with intention, right? Just like dating. In your case, you weren't starting with intent, right? That was the whole point. But like people do go on dates with intention, but it's the same thing. You should show up and go, well, I have an intention for the next hour. I'm just going to get to know this person. And so, same thing with business. It's like, oh, well, I have an intention that this person might be a great referral partner. I also just want to get to know cool people. So I'm just going to learn about them on this Zoom call or in the next question I ask on LinkedIn or whatever you send them, it's checking yourself on.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of advice we get in networking groups, and I was in a networking group recently where the hosts or facilitators were talking about show up and serve, 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 serve with no expectation. And in a way, it's a conflicting piece of advice that's very delicate because if you show up and just go, how can I serve these people? Like you said, when you project things that no one asked you for, this is the thing. When you project, like, this is how I can serve you, and it's like, I didn't order that. Like, whoa, like, I know this is delicious. I did not order it. I'm not hungry at the moment. So you have to be careful with how you're presenting it. It more so build the awareness of what you do or how you help people, or you put them in front of people you already have a relationship with and let them talk nicely about you. Those types of things work well when you're trying to be strategic a little bit, but the most strategic thing in my mind that I've lent into is simply listening and listening for what they're asking for help with and asking questions like, what's been your biggest challenge this year? And the first thing I actually do is not even offer myself. I think of other people that could help them. And that's actually huge because then it's not self serving. It doesn't feel salesy, but also you have become a catalyst to them finding the solution and they'll remember you for that positive memory. So, in a way, come at it with like, who can I connect them to that would help them? And then circle back with them. Did that help you? How is everything going? Are you still struggling with this? Or, how did that work out? That's one of the best ways, in my opinion, to start those conversations authentically because you want to help them out, but you don't have to always be the solution or you don't have to be like listening only for the problem you solve.
Right. Oh, I completely agree. If you can solve anyone's problem, you're golden. But like you said, that doesn't mean you have to be the solution. I always love to give the example of like, if you meet someone and they get on the call late because they go, "Oh my gosh, our nanny is sick again, and I think we might have to find someone else." And you can go send them a list of 5 nannies in the area that are reputable. You solve their problem and it has nothing to do with your business, Or, "Oh, this is my friend so and so. She loves her person. Talk to her." Like, it's such a silly example, but like you said, it's be the catalyst for the solution. You don't have to be the solution.
And although they maybe didn't ask for that, I feel in that type of situation, like in that example, you have to be really delicate with it. Right. But like they're going to feel seen, heard, and understood in that moment where they've admitted that problem and they may not have invited you particularly to solve it. But the thought that went into, hey, I heard you say this. I have some friends in your area and here are some people they recommend, or here are some people I found. Um, in case it helps you. Hopefully, number 1, hopefully they're not insulted. I don't think they would be, but I think that intention is clear. That's like, "Hey, I heard you say you were looking for this and I wanna help you out with that." That's awesome. I'd love to hear your take on, that's serving, but, maybe that is a relationship you wanna build for a reason, right? There's this concept that Gary Vee talks about, right, with the jab, 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 right hook. And, uh, you know, what was it? Alex Hormozy came out with something reacting to that, and he said, like, "Just jab." Like, just jab, and they'll ask you when they need a punch in the face, like, something like that, where basically if you jab enough times and you're just showing up and you're listening and you're genuinely interested in solving the person's problem, they will ask you. Like, if you're just focused on the relationship, they will invite you to solve their problem. You don't have to project and don't have to suggest it or invite yourself over. They will invite you.
I think there can be truth to that. Um, I wanna go back real fast and then I'll come back to it. Like that example of the nanny, it is the difference between they at least shared a problem. We don't wanna be the person who's solving problems no one said they ever had, right? That's the difference.
That's the difference, though, some assumed problem.
It's the assumed problem. It's like, "Please don't email me and tell me how you can fix my YouTube channel. I didn't ask for that help right now." Um, so on the jab, 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 right hook, I like what Alex Hormozy is saying in theory, but everyone also knows exactly what Alex does. And I will say with a lot of people, what I have seen is they jab, 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 but they never tell people how they can help. If you're constantly out there telling people how you can help, it's in your messaging online, it's something that they've seen you talk about on a stage at the community group that you're a part of locally or the business group you're a part of. They know what you do. And so now you're just showing up and building that relationship and they know you're available. But what I am finding is there's a lot of people who are like, well, why is no one thinking of me? It's like, because you're not reminding them how you can help. It doesn't mean you have to ask them all the time, "Do you need my help right now with this thing?" But, like, are you putting out there what you do so that you are top of mind when the moment comes?
I agree with that. I'm thinking it more in terms of the pitch, the direct message pitching. So it's more like as long as they can go to your profile and they can see what you do and who you serve and how you help, which is all about a good profile optimization, which we have talked about. So a lot of that is as long as you're putting your brand out there the right way and making people aware of that, yes. I personally am turned off personally by direct message pitching because I say you shouldn't have to direct message pitch me. Because if we have a relationship, if I'm following you, if you're paying attention to me, we will have plenty of excuses to interact on other topics and plenty of itches that will come up where I know you're the solution. Like plenty of times where I will get exposure to you over time and be reinforced of what you do if you're doing it right. So you're 100% right. I think I'm assuming that's happening in the background, but like when you overly pitch, like, I want you as a customer, it just gets to be a little bit much, in my opinion, when it's like, I know what you do. I know you're there. Chill.
Yeah. I think there's a difference. So one thing I've seen is I agree with you on that. What I'm seeing more with a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs is they're cold pitching or they're the person who goes, "My content's just gonna speak for itself." I think a lot of people just kinda tap on the door when they want something. They don't go, "Hey, I need you for this." They go, "Hey, I have a question for you." And the business owner doesn't pounce enough on that moment. That I think is a big thing that's
They
happening.
don't hear the invitation.
Right. You don't need to be cold pitching, DM pitching people all the time. And I will say this is a little bit industry to industry. Some industries you are going to do a little bit more like, hey, there's no other way you're going to know me than me sending you an email and telling you about myself. Um, but it's wild to me that, someone will go, hey, I'm needing help. Like I used to be a career coach, so I'll use that side. Like, hey, I'm needing help with I have a job interview coming up. And some people will just start giving free advice instead of going, oh, tell me a little bit more about that. Okay, well, I have this interview practice service and you could use that. When someone starts opening the door and saying, I'm letting you in, take that moment to sell. I guess that's where I see people still jabbing. And it's like, no, 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 no. This was the moment where they said, punch me in the face, right hook at this point.
Yeah, no, no, they've invited you to talk to them. So can I tell you something about accountants that's really funny? It's such a weird concept, but all right, I'm generalizing. Anyone accountants who listen to this show, I'm generalizing. But what I've noticed is a lot of people on Facebook, which is why I left those dang groups. On Facebook, the accountants communities are whew, vicious. All they do is complain about stupid questions from clients. It's obnoxious. I started getting in there and I started getting emotional and I just like let it go because I would get in there and be like, what a fucking gift they are giving you by asking you questions. They're telling you what they need. And they don't see that. They see, why would this person bother me with questions? They're not even a client. They're expecting me to respond to them and give them free advice. They're asking you out. They're asking you out. And then also, same accountants. How come I can't get any new clients that I enjoy working with? How come I can't get any new business? How come I can't grow my practice? And I see it time and time again because you're rejecting the invitations because you're like the awkward, you're like Sheldon Cooper getting hit on. You don't know that you're being hit on right now and you're not taking advantage of it. You're not flirting back. You're going, ugh. It's almost like, why am I going on any dates at the bar? This girl's sitting there, and every guy who walks up to her, she's like, "Ugh, get away from me." It's like, why can't I find a man? Like, you're actively repelling them.
It's very true. Well, and also I think with that too, like everyone has their frustrations with things, but you have to remember, oh yeah, that's why I'm the expert and they're not. They're coming to me because they don't know the answers to these questions. But yes, and so it's like take that moment to go, hey, here's a brief answer to your question.
Or here's who would know that, or here's an article that you might help.
Exactly. Like, here's a blog post I wrote about it 3 years ago, right? Like, you can do anything around that, but then don't leave them there. Go, why are you asking that question? Is something going on in your business? Like, start a conversation so that you can sell your services at that point.
Yeah, or here's the other thing too. I think that without the intention of selling your services, I think we also have to all be open to conversations that solely give us great insights into pain point struggles and relationships of our ideal client. So even if they're not going to be a client, I assume every interaction is like, this is going to be good content. Like, I just assume everything is gonna be like, "Okay, great. Ask me more questions because I need more content." And I've even told those accountants on Facebook, I'll go, "Send them my way because I want good content." So, like, send them my way for questions. Guys, this is how this podcast started, was that interaction was like, "Send them my way for questions because 'cause I'll answer them on the podcast and I'll send them a link." And guess what? They became listeners, and then who knows, right? So, just show up knowing that in the very least, I'm gonna get really good insights and content out of this.
Completely agree. When I was talking earlier about how I go on LinkedIn and say, like, hey, I'm interested in learning about this thing. That's not BS. Like, so employee engagement, I'll go to people in employee engagement because part of what I talk on is networking internally because people at work feel lonely. So, how do you build those internal relationships? So, I'll message people in employee engagement and say, I'm interested in learning more about what you do and how you're working on sense of belonging. That's not BS. That's not me just using a line so that I can get in and try and sell them on something. No, I genuinely want to hear what's going on. And so once they connect, we start talking and it does lead to Zoom calls. And on the Zoom calls, I tell them nothing of my business unless they ask at the end. Some of them go, okay, so wait, tell me more about what you do. I tell them enough for context. I go, this is what I speak on. I'm not pitching you. I just want to hear more about what you do because I'm not in the hallways or I'm not in your Slack chats. And so I'm just trying to get insight so I can make better talks. And then that on its own, if it ends there, and there are a couple of calls, because kind of going to what we were talking about earlier, you're not gonna vibe with everybody. There are a couple calls that was it, and I got good insight, and there are other people that I'm like, "Great, I got good insight, and now they're aware of what I do, and we can keep this conversation going, and down the road, it might lead to speaking. It might lead to 8,000 different things or just be a friendship or a really good person to ask questions of." Like, that goes back to kind of where we started this whole thing of don't get tied to the expectations.
Don't put them on the bookshelf yet.
They great for a million reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just enjoy the interaction for what it is. I think we're so concerned with spending our time wisely, which is fair because we have so many things diverting our attention that we're protective of our time, rightfully so. But in doing so, we are also always want to know what our ROI is going to be on our time. So we want to know that, is this interaction going to be worth it or not? Like, do I move on? And I think we have to kind of shed that and just allow your peopling time, like you said. Like, you have to just allow for, this may have nothing in a short-term impact, and play the long game on simply, you're probably one connection away from anything you need right now, and a matter of time before that connection shows up. There have been plenty of people, and I'm sure you've had this too, that I've met that I'm like, this person will never be a client. And any other business person would be like, I don't know why you still talk to those people. And I'm like, wait for it. And it's like, out of the blue, the right person shows up of someone I need in my business. So I'm looking for somebody to do this type of service, and they're the person who doesn't do it, but they know somebody and we're still connected and they see my post and we still interact. So, like, it's overwhelming to think that every single person is valuable to you. It's overwhelming to think that I must foster every relationship. I want to end on this note as we wrap up, Cass, and just go, okay, okay. So I have to personalize everything. I have to say yes to everybody. I have to go meet everybody. I got it. Let's just bring that back down to earth and go, okay, though, like there has to be some focus, there has to be some control, there has to be some boundaries and habits built. Like, how do you contain that effort into something that's digestible so that people feel like they're getting the squeeze out of these personalizations and these interactions without spending all freaking day on LinkedIn, making phone calls and doing all that stuff?
Yeah. Um, by the way, I like that you said the one connection can lead. That's why my company is called One Hello, because one hello can lead to a million opportunities. Um, I think it's about getting focused. So, honestly, like, the easiest place to start is start with 10. I know we said, like, "Oh, you don't need a checklist." It's true. I think it's let's say start with 10 people or start with a time each day that you're just going to use, like how you have your 15 minutes. Um, you're gonna use 2 people. Are there 10 people that you'd like to build relationships with? Because again, like I said at the beginning, I've learned follow-up is the thing that doesn't happen. So people will have somebody that they go, "Oh, I think that person could really help me one day," but they never check in with them. And it's like, okay, so write a list of people just so you're mindful of who you need to go build relationships with. And just start asking for, if it's somebody you already know and you haven't talked in a while, say, "Hey, we haven't chatted. Do you want to get on a Zoom soon? Or do you want to grab a coffee if you live near each other?" Start the process with just 10. If you don't know who to do that with, the other thing I would say is just this is going to sound so simple, it's dumb, but we don't do it. Who did you meet last year that you just genuinely enjoyed and you should start building a relationship with? Sometimes because we're so into our day to day, we see the same people we see and we forget about, like, you know, that person I met at that conference was so much fun to talk to. I like them. Like, write a list of 5 people you just like and start building those relationships. And so I think it can be that easy. Um, but if people need the time and accountability, I do have something to help with that as well. So,
Yes. I love that. So let's talk about that for a second too. That if somebody, let's say, is I want to adopt all these things, this makes total sense. I'm ready to go. I've got like my Asana board, I got my to-do list written down. Like, okay, I need to go do all of these things on a weekly, daily, monthly basis. Now, it's like the person in January 1st with their fitness routine. You know this. It's like I'm gonna go to the gym 4 days a week. I'm gonna eat good. I'm gonna eat my vegetables. Okay, but by February, you're gonna tank. So let's talk about accountability and let's talk about how people can be enabled to keep doing these things on a routine basis. Because that's really where the value comes in is consistency.
yeah. So that is why, as I said, like last year, I realized, oh my gosh, it's the follow up part that everyone has a hard time with. And it really comes down to time. It gets put on that back burner, as I keep saying. And so that is why I created One Hello Society. And so it is a community to help you build your own community, build your own network. Do you get to network with each other? Of course. We are a fun group. We laugh, we have a great time, we help each other. But the crux of the community is 2 times a month, we get on a co working call for an hour and share with each other who we're following up with. You don't have to give names, but like, "Oh, I met people at an event last night and I have to, send some connection requests," or, "Oh, I've got 5 past clients I'm going to reach out to." And we all do that for an hour together because that accountability helps us actually make progress, right? There's so much around the mirroring of co-working calls that gets things done. And so that's the main part. The other thing we do is since we were talking today about like stop giving value, instead care, we have what I call a share and care call where once a month you do get to share, here's what I'm needing or here's what I need input on, and everyone gets to help. Do I have a resource? Do I have someone to connect you to? Um, people will come with things like, "I'm going on vacation, I need fun books to read." That's fine. Or, I've told the group before, I'm looking to meet more people in employee engagement. So if you have any friends and family in that area, please feel free to make an introduction, right? And then they can do that. So it's helping each other build out our own networks instead of getting on a random network, these networking community groups, which I am a part of some and I have friends who lead them. But you're getting on with a bunch of people you don't know and just saying, this is what I'm doing. And if anyone needs that, and hoping they can help each other, this is to help you deepen those networks you already have.
Those rooms too, I have to say, and although I've been part of them too, they can be crowded and noisy where everyone's saying what they do. And then by the time you get to person 27, you're like, I fucking forgot what 1 through 10 did. And you listen to all of them, but then they become a lot of information intake. And you just have to remember that it just, not that it loses authenticity, because I do believe they're authentic and with the intention of where they are. But I think that I would much rather spend an hour with someone challenging me to hold myself accountable to all my personal relationships and the follow up, as opposed to introducing a lot more people I'm never going to talk to again.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Better use of time. I love that.
I found a gap in the market to me that it was people need this set aside time. And the research is out there that the people you already have in your network are actually the best. And by network, I mean the people you already know in life, past coworkers, family, etc. They actually hold the keys to whatever it is you need next. But we need to develop those relationships so that we can do that. So that's what this group is
Mhm.
all about.
Yeah. It's almost like you keep digging for more treasure chests, but you haven't opened the ones that you have.
Correct. That's a great way of putting it.
It's like you keep digging and I'm like, you know that you have those and you haven't even like tapped into what they have in them yet. And that's the thing, is like, not to stifle your networking, but I think people are just constantly looking for the proverbial business card count. It's almost like the follower count and going, okay, but what is each worth to you? Like there's none that are actually valuable. There's a lot of rocks, no diamonds, because you haven't bothered to, work on them. So Cass, how do people join this accountability group? 'Cause now I'm interested in this too.
So you can go to cassthompson.com/one hello society. I also have it on my Instagram. You can click and find it there. Um, it's a great time. We're a fun group. We have a good time. We laugh a lot in between our follow-ups. And so if people have questions too, feel free to message me. I'm on all the platforms. Message me anywhere. Instagram, LinkedIn, doesn't matter. Yes.
And you know it's gonna be Cass.
Yes.
So awesome. Thank you so much for joining me again. This has been a lovely conversation. We'll definitely have you back to talk more about it. Guys, I would love to know whether you join One Hello Society or you decide you're going to go implement what you learned today and integrate some of peopling time into your schedule, which I need to do. Is it working? What's going on? Comment on the YouTube video and just let us know how this has helped you integrate better habits. Cass, thank you as always for hopping on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know I love talking about profit and cash flow. But if you've mastered these things, the next level thing to be focused on is your customer value. If you have to constantly hustle to sell more and hit your revenue goals, it's important to think about how you can deliver more value, build retention, and maximize the lifetime profitability of every customer. When you invest in a power session, we're able to dive into your customer acquisition cost and determine some personalized strategies to decrease your costs and increase the lifetime value of your customers. Click the link in the show notes to learn more.